Good morning, everybody. As we go to the chitas of today, today is Thursday, the fifth reading in Parshas Vayakel, which is on chapter 36, verse number 20. Vayasas hakroshim, and then he made the kroshim, the planks, the mishkan to this tabernacle. I'd say shittim they were made out of acacia wood, aimed them standing vertically. Each length of the plank was 10 cubits. The width of each plank was 1.5 cubits. Each plank had two fingers, two tensions. They were parallel, one to the other, to be able to go into the sockets. To all the planks of the Mishkan. And he made the following number of planks for the tabernacle: 20 planks. The fast negative to the southern side. Each one, and they all had altogether 40 silver bases in place to place. Each plank had two adonim for the two fingers coming out. The shtei yedaisav to the two fingers. The two tensons coming out. That they would be able to go into these sockets. Let's tell our Mishkan Hashenis into the second side of side of the tabernacle. That was to the north of the tabernacle. Was Asa Essen Crushing made again 20 planks. And also he made with on those 20 planks had 40 adonim. Each plank had two bases. Two bases on each plank. Verse 27. And to the tabernacle, and for the back of the tabernacle, which was the west side of the tabernacle, also Shisha made 6 planks. This was the back of the tabernacle. And besides the 6 planks, he made 2 of them that were connected to the corners. So inside the temple, you saw 6 planks, but on the outside, actually, you saw 8 planks. The planks were flush each against the other at the bottom, and they were flush against each other at the top. Where they were joined the planks to fit it together in a rectangular band. On top, they were connected by a single band that went through each one, so it connected the two planks together. Cain also that he made on both sides. So both of them made a little sliver, and then you put a ring around the top. So now it held the top together. All thus, the west side, it was all 8 planks and their silver bases. So that means there were shnei adonim. There were 16 bases altogether. Shnei adonim tachat hakeres echad, each two bases on each keresh. Then he made the crossbars out of acacia wood. There were planks, 5 crossbars for the planks on each side along the tabernacle. There were 5, but there were, as Rashi we learned, there was actually 3 that was on the bars on the side of the Mishkan. But then he made he made an inner bar. You couldn't see it because it went through the inner side of the temple. Which went through the inner side of the kroshim, from one side of the tabernacle to the end of the side of the tabernacle. There's a kroshim and all these planks, tipa zav, covered with gold. There's tabeisayim and their rings, also zav. Everything was gold. But these that's be able to hold the poles. Zav, and all these things were covered with gold. All the crossbars were covered with gold. And then he made a curtain out of Turkish purple and scarlet wool. This all was a woven. A craftsman also sekruvim, he made them cherubim, which means he made them that they had, each side had a different picture. A lion on one side and a eagle on the other side. And he made 4 poles of acacia wood. And he covered these poles with gold, and their hooks gold. And he made only 4 silver bases. These were the curtain that divided the holy from the holy of holies. And then he made a curtain to the entrance of the tent, and that was also made out of tchelet v'agomet la'ashani v'sheish mozazar, because the opening of the front was open, so it was closed off by not by a wall, but by a curtain again. And he made again Besamod of Chamisha. He made 5 pillars. All the hooks, all made out of gold, and Vadineim, and their base was not 2, was 1, and their base was made out of copper. The outside curtain. Chapter 37, verse number 1. Vayas Betzalel Sodin. So here, Betzalel started to make the utensils after he built the Mishkan, the walls of the Mishkan, and the cover of the Mishkan. He started to make the utensils of the Mishkan. So he flipped it over, because in the Torah, Teruma Tetzav is the other way. First was the utensils, and then was the Mishkan. But Betzalel did it the other way. First he made the Mishkan, and then he made the covers. And then he made the utensils, the Oren, and the Mizbeach Hazav, and the Menorah, etc. Betzalel made the Oren out of acacia wood. A 2.5 cubits it's long. And 1.5 cubits its width. And 1.5 cubits its height. Now she says, they asked Betzalel, why does it say Betzalel made this? Other people that helped him make all this stuff. So Rashi says, because he applied himself to the work more than any other wise men, it's reckoned as in his name, Vayas Betzalel, and Betzalel made, even though there were a lot of people that were part of this doing. It's a pair of was covered with gold from the inside and outside. Vayas Lezezav, on this ark, he made a golden crown. Yitzchak Bartaba, he put on this ark, he put upon it 4 gold rings. Alabar Parma, the 4 corners. 2 gold rings on one corner. And 2 gold rings on the other corner. Verse number 4, and then he made poles of acacia wood. And he covered these poles with gold. And then he inserted the poles into the rings. Which was on the side, these rings were on the side of the Aron. To be able to carry this on. Then he made a cover. This cover he made pure gold. Everything was laid gold. This was made out of pure gold. This was a pure gold cover, from the cover to the cherubim that was on top of it. It was made out of 1 piece of gold. It was 2.5 cubits its length, and 1.5 cubits its width. And then he made 2 cherubim, but it was made from the cover. He hammered them out from the 2 ends of the cover. So the cover and the cherubim were 1 piece of gold hammered out. 1 cherub from this side, 1 cherub from the other side. From the cover, he banged out the cherubim from the cover, from both sides. And these cherubim were they had their wings spread aloft. So the wings shielded the cover. So the wings went over the cover. And their faces, one faced the other. The cherubim being inclined, that the faces were facing each other, but they were facing the cover. They were facing, the faces were facing the even though they were facing each other, they were facing down towards the cover itself. Verse 10, then he made a table of acacia wood. He made this table 2 cubits long and 1 cubit width, and a cubit and a half, 1 cubit and a half its height. He covered this table gold, and not only did he cover this table gold, but he made a golden rim around it, made a gold crown. Then he made a frame of a tefach, a handbreadth, Savav, he made this frame around this table. But Zav, the Mazgaitis of it, he made the gold rim was for its frame. So on top of the frame that went around the table, there was this golden rim, this golden crown. Then he made for the table, he made 4 gold rings. He placed the 4 gold rings on the 4 corners, on the 4 legs of this table. Lumas Hamazgeres, the rings were close to the frame. Bottom, the rings was to be able to hold the bottom, so that the poles that you put into the rings. Loss is a shulchan to carry this table. Then he made the bottom, the poles. Shittim, he made these poles out of acacia wood. But Yitaf Eisam Zav, he covered it with gold. Loss is shulchan to carry this table. Then he made the utensils to this table. As Kadesav, its bread forms. Ves Kapesav, its spoons. Ves Minikesav, its sporting frames. Ves Kashirsav, and its shelving tubes. Asher Yusuf Behem Zav Ter, which the bread would be covered out of pure gold. So that was not wood. Those the what held all this bread, show breads, were made out of pure gold. And that completes the Chumash for today. Now go to the Tanya of today. We're holding the 35th, still in the 35th chapter of Tanya. The Alter Rebbe said that even though the Beinoni, the middleman that serves God, and he does his avodah, and he doesn't transform his animalistic soul. His animalistic soul stays where it is. Nevertheless, that's an unbelievable service to God. And the Alter Rebbe wants to express to that person that that's his avodah, even though he has not transformed his animalistic soul, and his animalistic soul stays the way it is. Still in all, that is complete. That is considered a service of God, and that's considered a success. Because why? Because you're doing God's service. You're changing the world, and by changing the world, Eskafia Sitra Achra, by subduing Sitra Achra, that's a great accomplishment for what God wants in the world. And that could only be done through a simple mitzvah that I do, because that transforms the world, that transforms the physical world. Alter Rebbe continues this message. Although the substance and the essence of the animal soul that's in his heart, which is its evil midas, the evil emotional character, it's still there. I still have an evil emotional character in my being. It still has not still been absorbed. Has not still been absorbed into holiness, as explained in chapter 12. Only the case tzaddikim, the righteous people, are the evil midas themselves transformed into holiness. In others, only the animal soul's garments, its faculties of expression, by the means which a mitzvah is accomplished, are absorbed in holiness, but not the actual animalistic soul, not the midas, not the character itself, which constitutes the animal soul's essence. Nevertheless, this fact does not prevent the light of the Shekhinah from suffusing the entire body. You're right. So you're right. Your animal soul, the midas of your animal soul have not been transformed, but the garments of the animal soul. Now the animal soul is thinking Torah. Now the animal soul is saying the words of Torah, because that's the way I talk. I talk through with the capacity of my animal soul. Now my animal soul is giving tzedakah, put on tefillin today. So now my animal soul has done the mitzvah. As the Alter Rebbe concludes shortly, yet because the evil midas are subjugated to holiness, you didn't transform them, but you forced them, you subjugated them, and against their will, when they hear a bracha, or they hear kedusha, or they hear kaddish, they say amen. Umaskinim, umasin latza mitzvah, and they succeed to perform their given, and they do the mitzvah. Al de'eskabris nafshe lekis, through the strengthening of the divine soul that's in my brain, which rules over the heart. So, as discussed in chapter 12, although the emotion of a Beni has not been transformed into good, he nevertheless has the power to control them by means of his mind to contemplating God's greatness. In this way, the Beni can direct his heart as he chooses, insofar as actual performance of mitzvah is concerned. And the evil mitzvahs at that time, when I'm learning, when I'm doing the mitzvahs, in bechinas galus, when one exercises a natural mastery of brain over heart by contemplating God's greatness, is in a state of galus. Now I put my animalistic soul in a state of exile. Vishena, and in a situation of sleep. So I've transformed it. Instead of my godly soul being in galus, my godly soul now is in full control, in the garments of its being, in thought, speech, and action. My godly soul is in full control right now, and now my animalistic soul has gone to sleep. My animalistic soul that is there has been put into exile. Now he's forced to do what the godly soul wants to do. Therefore, this natural of the animal soul, the evil mitzvah, does not prevent the Shechina, because my animalistic soul has been knocked out for the time. He's sleeping right now. He's put into jail right now. He's the one who's in exile at this present moment. So therefore, my animal soul has no power at this present moment, because the most important thing is the garments of the animal soul. Thus, like the most important thing is the garments of the godly soul. As I said before, even the three garments of the godly soul, thought, speech, and action. What's the most important thing to this godly soul is action. Because only in action he touches the essence of God. The mitzvah touches the essence of God. Now can you imagine that I've taken my animalistic soul, my physical thought, my physical speech, my physical action, and I have clothed it. I've given it over now to my godly soul, to the mitzvah. I've given it over to God. So now my animalistic soul, its midas, are totally knocked out. They're totally out of their power, and they become in gullus. They have now been. I've exiled the animal soul. Doesn't mean I don't have the animal soul. Doesn't mean my animal soul is not waiting for a time to get out and to overpower it put my godly soul into exile. And that's the fight, what we mentioned in the beginning of Tanya. Each one wants the upper hand. That's the point. The godly soul knows maybe that it'll never get rid of the animalistic soul, just wants the upper hand. The animal soul also knows he's never going to get rid of this godly soul. He wants the upper hand. He wants to be the dominating figure. He wants to be the one who puts the other one into exile. So the Alter Rebbe says, for this concept, for the godly soul to put the animal soul into exile, that's an accomplishment. That's a great accomplishment for the Beinoni. Because at that moment that I am doing the mitzvah with my godly soul, and I did it with my neshama, with the purpose of godliness, because I'm Shem Shamayim, I'm doing this mitzvah because God, the ratzon of the Eibush, the will and the will of God. So now the will of God takes over the mitzvah, and not only takes over the mitzvah, consumes the mitzvah, consumes my levushim, consume my garments that I'm doing it with, which is thought, speech, and action, because it became consumed in the will of God. It's actually absorbed in the divine light, and emerges in a complete unity with God. That doesn't mean my animal soul merges completely, but my garments of my animal soul. The garments of my animal, I've given over my mind to learning Torah right now. We're giving over our minds, hopefully, to the learning of Torah. We're focused, we're dedicated in whatever time it is to learn, to focus on the teaching, to learn it, and to give over my mind to that. And so to my speech. And not only that at that time I give it over. Thereby one draws down a ray of light, wherein the particular power has been absorbed by the totality of the animal soul. Not only that, you should realize that through learning, through a mitzvah, you affect dust the levushi haneshama. Dust the garments, it's ultimately going to affect your whole being. Throughout the body and upon the entire body as well. As the expression goes, mitzvah geideres mitzvah. One good deed brings another good deed. One learning brings more learning. And so on and so forth. Why? Because once you give your body, you give it over totally to your godly soul, even your body starts to change. Even the physical reality starts to change. And therefore we see that ultimately people transform themselves. They become different people. All started off with an interest in an aspect of learning, an interest and an aspect of doing. Ultimately, this action, because it's infused in godliness, has to affect not only your godly soul, it's going to ultimately affect your animal soul. And not only it's going to affect your animal soul in its garments, it's going to affect your animal soul in its whole entity, which is going to mean it's going to change your body. It's going to change your physical reality. That's got to give the body an opportunity. That you understand, because the divine ray of the divine light illuminates one's animal soul and his body in a manner that encompasses from above, surrounding them from head to foot. And that's what happens. Because since you connect yourself to godliness, this thing affects everything. This godliness affects everything from the top to A to Z. And therefore, it's going to change. Be'ezrat Hashem, A to Z. If the person gives himself the chance, it will change his whole reality. And that's the expression which the Zohar says, the Shechina rests on his head. Upon that this light, we should realize that the light that a Jew has above him is not, when you say above him, doesn't mean that's not within him. It means it's an encompassing light. It's an unbelievable revelation of godliness, like it's above him. It's far beyond him. And therefore, it affects him. Because since it's not a light that comes into a particular thing, the light of God that a Jew accomplishes to doing a mitzvah, to giving his time to Torah, and these things, brings down an encompassing light, a light of Seviv Kalamim. When the Chassidus wants to explain infinite light, he calls it light of Seviv Kalamim. And that's the meaning. It's an encompassing light. It's such a great light that comes within. But it's such a great light, it's like a Reisha, it's above him. Because it infuses everywhere. It's a light that infuses everywhere. See, the difference between the two expressions, the Mamala Kalam, Seviv Kalam. Mamala Kalam means a light that fills. That means every place has this light comes into a particular place and a particular situation. Seviv Kalam is an encompassing light that goes everywhere. It's everywhere, it's equal everywhere. That's the difference in Chokhmah and Ratzin. Chokhmah, even though how great it is, it still has a place. It's in the brain. But Ratzin will affects the whole body. Ratzin doesn't have a place. Ratzin is all over. And that's why when a person wants to do something, he does it whatever it is. Whether he wants to walk, talk, move his hand, whatever he wants to do, that Ratzin affects his entire body. Because Ratzin is in a more of an encompassing light, even in comparison to Chokhmah. That's the concept of the light. So that's all over here. That's the word. A Jew, Chacham ain't a bereisha. The Chacham understands that there's even a greater concept. That's the Rotzein of the Eibishter. Chacham ain't a bereisha. Because the Shechina, a Chacham realizes that the Shechina, the encompassing light, is above him. And the encompassed light that's in him is above him. And it's an infusing light. He realizes that whatever he does, and in the concept of a mitzvah, who doesn't make a difference who he is. A chacham, whether he's a tzaddik, whether he's a beinoni, whether he's a great man or a simple man, a chacham understands that when he connects to God, the shechina is above him, right on top of his head. And therefore he comprehends that when he does something, it's not only what he feels in himself, it's that he connected to God that's above him. He brought down, he infused a light that's much greater than him. And therefore, the light that's much greater than him affects him entirely, consumes him entirely, transforms him. And so too as it's brought down. Upon an assembly of 10 Jews, the Mishnah says, the divine presence rests. Means that the light of the divine presence did not permeate them, but illuminates them from above. Therefore, various levels of resting of the Shekhinah has been discussed as it rests upon the divine soul, upon a specific faculty of the animal soul that it performs the mitzvah, upon the animal soul as a whole, and upon the body. The latter two only encompasses it, but not permeates with it the light of the Shekhinah. As the light of the Shekhinah encompasses the body, within this level we find further submission. At the level which is affected by the mitzvah, that which encompasses any gathering of 10 Jews, even when they're not engaged in the mitzvah. And perhaps we may distinguish yet another level, that which rests upon even one individual Jew, even when he's not occupied with a mitzvah. So we see there's the encompassing light of God. And that's why the concept that we don't feel this light. It's an encompassing light. It's a light, as it called Shin Tashaya. 10 Jews get together for a baseball game. Shin Tashaya, the Mishnah says, 10 Jews get together not for learning Torah. They get together to have a good conversation. Shchinta Shaya. Self-understood, you don't feel the Shekhinah. They're not talking anything about Judaism. They're not even talking, they just got together for some kind of other thing. But the Mishnah says 10 Jews come together, Shchinta Shaya. Baal Shem Tov said, 10 Jews come together, a malach that goes above them will get burnt. Because Shchinta Shaya, the Shekhinah is with them. Now, self-understood, this is totally encompassing light. Because the 10 Jews don't even feel that the Shekhinah is there. And the proof is that they're not even saying anything of Torah. So if they would feel the Shekhinah there, they wouldn't talk Dvarim B'Telem. They wouldn't talk idle talk. But they don't feel it. Because it's an encompassing light. Such a great light, an encompassing light. So there are many different concepts in this encompassing light. Alter Rebbe goes on to state that very levels in which a Shekhinah becomes manifest does not indicate any change in the plurality of its light, God forbid, because it's an encompassing light. The variety means merely that the different objects of the light, the divine soul, the Shekhinah is above, the divine soul is called the Shekhinah. The animal soul, the levush, that's the levushim of the animal soul, the body, and so on. We see different ways this encompassing light. But it doesn't change the encompassing light, because that's the point. The encompassing light is an encompassing light. Is an that is not connected, that is above and beyond. But there are various ways where this encompassing light connects to. Self-understood. When you have 10 Jews that are learning Torah, now you have a different concept of this encompassing light. Because not only is there an encompassing light, but the encompassing light comes in the Torah that they're learning. That's why the Mishnah says that even the Mishnah goes down, 10 Jews learning Torah, 5 Jews learning Torah, 3 Jews learning Torah, 2 Jews learning Torah, and then the Mishnah says even 1 Jew learning Torah. Even 1 Jew learning Torah, the Shekhinah is with him. Self-understood. It's much greater when 2 Jews learn Torah. It's even greater when 5 Jews learn Torah, 3 Jews, or 5 Jews, and it's even greater when 10 Jews learn Torah. What is the meaning? Because then the encompassing light has more of a reality, so to say, in this situation to be felt than when it's not that way. But the encompassing light is a Ur. It's Ur Havaya. It's the Ur of God. It's infinite light of God that really is not changeable. It's not you can't put it into forms or different. The way the Ur of Amala, the way the light comes within something, that's a difference. Every mitzvah has its Ur. Tefillin has it. That's why every mitzvah has a dimension. So tefillin, you can't say you have to have a dimension tefillin, because the Ur, the light that comes into tefillin, needs to fit this physical vessel. And so too, every mitzvah has its time and its space, etc. And its amount, even mitzvah of tzedakah, in halacha, there's amount of tzedakah. Meiser, there's an amount of Meiser. Why? Because the mitzvah, the oira hamamale, the light that comes within the vessel, needs to have exactly its vessel. But oira seiviv, the ratzon of the Eibishter, the will of God, which is the infinite, which is the encompassing light, has no vessel. It's more of an encompassing, unbelievable revelation in this world. So now the various forms in which the light of the Shekhinah is manifest, meaning the way in which infinite light is revealed. That's the infinite light. God, the Ein Sof, is everywhere. It is only that he's concealed from his creatures, from creation, from humans. Thus, the uniqueness of manifestation of Shekhinah relies in the revelation of the Ein Sof. Cannot be constructed as a change in himself or in plurality. You cannot, in the Ein Sof, you cannot say there's a difference between one person and 10 people. There's a difference the way the Eid is revealed in one person, then it's just 10 people, but not in the Eid itself. The fact that the Shekhinah manifests itself at some point, meaning one soul through performance of mitzvah, where it previously not been manifest, does not point to a change in God. Nor do the various forms of manifestation indicate a plurality within God, because Eid ain't safe. You cannot make a change, it ain't safe. You cannot affect a change in an infinite concept. As the Gemara in Tractate Sanhedrin says, the Amalei Ahu Mina Rabbi Gamliel, where it's recorded a certain heretic said to Rabbi Gamliel, Amrisu Kol Be'asara Shrinta Saida, you say that the Shekhinah rests on an assembly of 10. So you asked him a question. How much Shekhinah is there? How many Shekhinahs? You have 10. You go to, let's say, Kol Be'asara, you go to Yerushalayim, a mincha time. There's hundreds of shuls. There's hundreds of synagogues, 10 Jews or 20 or 30 Jews getting together daven. So this heretic said, oh, that means that there's 10 Shekhinahs. There's 100 Shekhinahs. What happened? The plurality in God. He's in this street and this, he's there. So you ask him a question. You say that there's in 10 Jews a Shekhinah rest. Well, let's say you have 1,000 synagogues. That means there's 1,000 Shekhinahs. And he answered him. He said, Moshel Meir Hashemesh, Hanichnes B'chalenis Rabbim. He asked him a question. Every house window, the sun comes in. How many suns are there? How many suns are there? Everybody says that he has the sun in his house. The ray of the sun. He's light in his house because he's opened the window and he has the ray of the sun. Is there a sun for each house? There's one sun. There's one sun that gives the capability that each guy who opens up his window should have sun into it. But the person can close his window, and now he doesn't have the sun in it. Does it mean it affected the sun? The sun now has got less light because the person closed his window. So despite the multitude of windows, there's one light. Same holds true, even with the light appears differently in one place to another place. The sunlight shining through the stained glass windows of various hues remains nonetheless unchanged. So let's say the guy has blue windows. He's going to have a blue light. The other guy has orange windows. He's going to have an orange light. The guy's going to have a multiple of colored windows like we have in the shul. We have stained windows. Now you're going to have multitude of light, multitude of different colors. That's the beauty. Didn't change the sun's light. It takes on multiple color appearance of the window, does not, as does also water in colored glass. Once removed from the glass, it appears precisely clarity. So it doesn't change water, doesn't change the color of water, doesn't change the light. So too, the various modes in which the light of the Shekhinah is manifest. That's the point. How does a Jew reveal the Shekhinah? A Jew can reveal the Shekhinah and 10 Jews coming together for a baseball game. They reveal the Shekhinah. 10 Jews coming together to learn, self-understood, reveals a greater Shekhinah. One Jew doing a mitzvah reveals a Shekhinah. One Jew learning Torah reveals a Shekhinah. Self-understood, that's much greater 10 Jews learning together than one Jew learning himself. Because the revelation of 10 Jews learning together, or more Jews learning together, is much greater than the revelation of the Shekhinah. But the Shekhinah, it's like taking a house, putting one window in it, putting 2 windows in it, 3 windows in it, 10 windows in it, or having it totally beautiful, one big window. You're going to have a much greater revelation of the sun in this house. It doesn't change the sun. It changes how much light you want to bring in to your existence. The light remains the same without change or division. Any difference in manifestation are attributed only to the way the light is received by the object in which it manifests itself. And that's the difference. The difference is, like I said before, I can reveal the essence of God only in my machshava. If I want to use it out in machshava, I can reveal the essence of God in my dibur, and I can do it also in my action. So I'm revealing God, whether it's I can do it in all 3. That's what I need to do. I need to do it machshava dibur ma'aseh. But it's up to me, and then it's up to me how much revelation of God I want to reveal in all these things. How much window space do I want to give to that content? And so that's up to me. Maskil Yuvan, as the Alter Rebbe ends off many times, he ends off this chapter, and the intelligent will understand. And as Chassidim would add, the devout will perceive. So the Alter Rebbe says always the intelligent will understand. Chassidim didn't want to say the intelligent because they felt they were unintelligent. They would say if they gave themselves over to it, they would understand. Devout, if you give yourself over to something, you're committed to something, even though you're not so intelligent, but you give yourself over to the subject, and you nullify yourself to the subject, you'll understand. Maybe that will bring you to understand better, at least. Okay, today is the 20th day of the month, which is chapter 97 to chapter 103. If you do those 7 chapters, you do the chitas of the day. The Rebbe writes in the Yom Yom today for the 20th day of Adar, both actually the 20th day of Adar, the 20th day of March. Avodah translated as service or striving. It's not striving that Avodah service is itself be true. Rather, truth itself is an Avodah. Rather, truth itself is an Avodah. Okay. That the fingernails be true. What does that mean over here? The fingernails are part of man, but virtually lifeless. Truth is necessary not only for the vital elements of man, his thought, emotion, relation with others, but even to the all but redundant and furthest extremities. Why does that surprise you? He saw the attribute of truth, the Talmud declares, and he prostrated himself. What does that mean? The Gemara in Sanhedrin says when God showed Moshe his 13 attributes of mercy, Moshe fell on his face, as it says in the verse over there in Shmos, chapter 34, verse 8. The Talmud asks, which is of the attributes impressed Moshe that he fell on his face? And the Gemara answers, he fell on his face to the attribute of truth. Because he realized that truth needs to be an A to Z situation. That's why it's the hardest thing, truth. Truth, the letter, first the Gemara says, the signet ring of God is truth, emes. And the word emes itself, Aleph is the first letter of the Hebrew alphabet, Mem is the middle letter of the Hebrew alphabet, and Saf is the last letter. So something that is emes needs to permeate everything. And that's the scariest thing, the concept of truth. And are we truthful to everything that we do? Or where we play with our truths? That's one, the first day. The Alter Rebbe is the next Hayom Yom. The Alter Rebbe relates amongst the teaching of my Rebbe, the Maggid told me at Yechidus, a private audience, there was one on the verse, a constant fire shall be kept burning on the altar. It shall not be extinguished. That's the verse. Eish tomet tukar al mizbeach, a constant fire shall burn on the altar. Loi sichbeh, you should not put it out. The Maggid taught that though fire descends from above, right? That was said as a miracle that a fire descended from above. Simultaneously, it's a mitzvah to bring an order. There's a mitzvah for the kohen to bring the fire. Man's action, an awakening from below, which engenders an awakening from above. And nevertheless, everything comes from above. The fire comes from above. Everything comes from above. Nevertheless, the Torah commands a kohen and commands a Jew, you make sure to start the fire. For the nature of the spirit is that a spirit elicits and responds to spirit, and in turn calls forth another, yet even higher spirit. The spirit from below elicits the spirit from above. An awakening from below creates an awakening from above. Pulling forth a spirit from a higher is still higher. It's a positive mitzvah to kindle fire on the altar. Refers to man who offers of you. The offering itself is insufficient. Man must kindle a fire on the offering that is of you. This fire, loy tichpa, literally it shall not be extinguished. But you can also say loy tichpa, you should extinguish the loy. Shall extinguish the loy tichpa. Extinguish the no. You're going to man has to extinguish the loy. My master told me this teaching 10 times, the Alter Rebbe said. I learned from the Maggid 10 times this teaching to engrave it in the 10 powers of my soul. And the Maggid said to him as follows, you, my pupil, he said to the Alter Rebbe, my student, are in need of this constant fire. I'm giving you teaching 10 times because you're going to need this fire. Because why? For yours is the duty of extinguishing the great loy. You're going to come out and you're going to teach Chassidus. There's going to be a great force that's going to say no. There's going to be a great pushback to you, which ultimately happened. Prophesied to the Alter Rebbe that ultimately he's going to have a great fight with the spreading of Chassidus. And he's going to be thrown into prison, whatever. This was not he was a life and death situation. So the Maggid said to the Alter Rebbe, you're going to have a great fight against the negative loy. You shall extinguish the loy. I'm giving you the fire to extinguish the no. And God will transform the loy into a yes. And you'll have that power. And that's the Hayom Yom of the day. I want to wish you all a wonderful, beautiful day. Mircham at 10 a.m. We're going to learn a Sikha of the Rebbe, the portion of the week on a Rashi of the week. And I hope to see you all at 10 a.m. Come to Chabad or on Zoom or on Torah Direct. Come and learn at 10 a.m. In an hour and 15 minutes. We're going to learn a beautiful Sikha of the Rebbe. Have a wonderful and beautiful day. Mircham will continue tomorrow at 8 o'clock to learn Chitas of